Oh, she had to file for bankruptcy. Wow. But she's been profitable for 5 years.
It doesn't dismiss all the good stuff. Right.
But unfortunately it does, because the negative stuff is so much louder. So, Dom, I had a dream last night that I called you and we met up to like get food. We don't meet for drinks, and I gave you a check for $300. I was like, this is half of our royalties on YouTube. I was like, we got monetized on YouTube. This is your half of the video.
God.
And I was so excited. Because honestly, like, every video I've seen, your first check is like 23 cents. And then it's like 74 cents. And then next thing you know, you are getting like a $4,000 check every month. Like, it's...
I have heard stories like that.
So
one day it's like cents, and the next day it could be like hundreds or thousands.
Because there's such a barrier you have to get to monetize. But then once you're monetized, because you've already been making content, now that they keep up with your cadence, because you have to post at least, I think, once a week to even qualify. And we post a short every day. We post 2 videos a week at least. We're doing 3 next week. So like... That's where that consistency will come in. And then they're like, oh shit, yep, they're still doing it. They're still doing it. And next thing you know, we'll have like our little YouTube plaque for being platinum back here. So, because YouTube's audience is very different, because you still have to click on a video. Like TikTok, you can look at it for like 3 or 4 seconds and they'll count it. YouTube, you have to legit click. Like, we worked for all of those views. And it's only been like 8 months.
I don't know the YouTube world. You do, because you have a lot of history and content.
Have 3 channels.
You put a lot of work into it. And so it's actually kind of funny. We don't talk about it often. I mean, there's not much to say. So I don't say that as like, oh, we need to talk about this more. Certainly not in this stage when we're not making any type of money, but because it's funny that you are hyper focused on that, and I'm always like on our TikTok, like, okay, I'm gonna do paid ad, and I pay for a lot of it to push out, because I'm like, you know what, it's kind of fun. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I don't know how much of a difference it makes in terms. I mean, I know that there's different. You have to select like, okay, for how much for follow, like if is your goal like to have more followers or more views or more like, there's like 4 different categories. I usually do for us followers, so that we can just get traction of people, or at least that's what I did last for a Devil Wears Prada video. I think we got like 50 followers from it, but I also picked the lowest package, which is like 49 to like 500, which is the funniest range, so that it quotes you. I don't know how that works.
So that was a win if we got 50 followers.
That's what I mean. I'm like, whatever. So it's funny that you're focused on that end, and I'm like, I've been focusing on the TikTok end. I'm like, okay, like I go into my Canva every day and I screenshot a still of us that I created, and I'm still learning it too. But that's by no means could this be making a difference? I don't know, but I'm trying it.
The effort is low as long as the cost is okay for you. And then we also still have the podcast that is still doing its own thing, right? We got 1,100 downloads with the podcast, which is not a small thing. I think it was like 1,152 when I was on there Wednesday. So
it's funny how it all works,
thing. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not a small thing at all. And
it all adds up.
It all adds up. And here's the thing. This is like, I have to remind, I'm the type of person that I naturally get defeated very easily. And that's just, it's a character flaw in me. And I've worked on a lot throughout the years. Like, I remember when I had like my lobectomy surgery back in 2018, 19, one of those fucking years. I had to stay at home as I was recovering. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm on short-term disability and getting paid. I started making jewelry for fun. I'm like, maybe I actually really enjoy this. So I started, it's when I lived in my shitty campus apartment. I actually had a second bedroom, and I turned it into like a studio, and you could spend tons of money on just like beads. And I loved it. And like just all like the different, types of metals I would use. And I mean, I was really into it. I had a whole website. I bought this like pseudo like photo studio box I actually made to put, you can put like fluorescent lights in and this certain like fabric, so it looks all white inside. So the background, it just looks like I took pictures. And I had like a website that I created, and I sold a couple things. I mean, I did. My point saying, it's like when I got, with each technique I tried to advance, if I didn't get it quickly, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd get so upset with myself. And that's, like I said, it's just like I have such high expectations for myself to get everything right the second time, that if I don't, I get very defeated. And I'm like, hey, it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
Which there are certain lessons within that, right? That work of like, it might not be meant to be, or it could be something where you have to keep going to unlock the next thing, or whatever it might be. I think it's more of a gut instinct more than anything, whether or not you keep, whatever it is. So with all that to say, that's why when I sometimes look at our stats, like on TikTok, I'm like, only 50? I wanted the 656 that I got at the other end. But, I am working actively not to discourage my brain. Because you're right, everything is an accomplishment that we do. So whether it's one follow, one download, all of that, it's like that's another person listening to what we have to say.
And I'll never stop thinking about literally these recordings. Like, it is 10 p.m. on the East Coast, and we're like, you just worked a full job. I just worked a full job. You took your dog out. I ate some dinner. Want to record? So this is no small thing. True. I mean, it's a great thing to be sitting in your studio in the middle of the day recording. But also, I like this kind of grassroots, selling tapes out of your trunk type.
Yeah.
Finding the time to get it done. And I think that that's super valuable too. Plus, like most successful people fail at like 5 businesses before the one hits. So just count all of that as experience. You're like, I had the jewelry shop. I learned how to crochet the summer before law school, and I still only know 3 stitches. And I go to law school, and this was the start. Like, when I write my book about podcasting, this will be like the intro, because I would take my law school notes and record them, and then I could listen while I was crocheting because I needed my hands free. I couldn't be flipping through note cards. And I'm like, that was the start of me being an audiophile, because I was literally like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I went to law school in Louisiana, and we had this super ice storm. It was literally like a half an inch of snow, but it's Louisiana. They get snow like every 23 years. And the whole city shut down, and all the stores didn't have scarves because it's Louisiana. They don't stock that regularly. I was selling these scarves for like $25 a pop, like just sitting in my room. And so I'm like, that was my first business. And the only reason it stopped was because I wasn't including the cost of time it took me to make them. I just was like, oh, yarn is $3. I'll sell them for $25. And I was like, yeah, but you're spending 8 hours making them. And I think
it's funny you say that, because in the pricing that I would do for like my jewelry, I didn't know how to calculate. I didn't even know how that part. I knew like, okay, here's my material. That's when like I'm like, man, Dominic, like you really need to do your homework. Figure like what is the equation to follow of like materials, custom materials, time, and then like electricity and all that kind of, like people know, because I've heard people talk about this. And they can recite that stuff like, okay, well, this costs this, so then this is $1.25, and then so I need to charge. I'm like, how the fuck do you even like? What is the? And obviously now with like AI, I can literally go in like Claude and ask, hey, I'm doing all this, figure it out for me. So it looks like I don't have to think about it in a certain sense. But it's funny because I did the same. I'm like, I don't want to calculate that. So here you go, $20, and it's yours or something.
And then people are like, I'll buy 3 of them. You're like, wait, I know it was cheap? Wait.
Well, when you said 25, I was like, probably like you could like you probably should have sold it for 50 because you know that people want to buy. Because I understand supply and demand. I do know that.
I would be like handcrafted scarves created in a wellness retreat in Ohio.
All the marketing
this
terms,
is my full day. Please, that shit would be like $117 for like an 8-inch scarf. Because people would send me pictures of the scarves back. They would order one for their sibling, and they would be like, look, she still wears her scarf. And I was like, I even created an Instagram page for it because it was called 19 Knits, because 19 is my favorite number.
That's actually a cute name.
And but I just did not have time to learn the marketing. I just was like, I'll have it here, and if someone finds it and buys them, great.
Right.
And but I still do crochet, but now I just give them as like baby blankets when my friends have kids.
I don't know how to do that, but that's such a fun skill. And it's funny because other thing in terms of high expectations for myself that I struggle with, the other thing is and I don't know where along the way in my life journey this thing planted in my brain, but I have always loved the story when I would hear like business person, mogul, whatever, and they talk about like I'll use your business, for example, as an example. The story goes they'll be on like Good Morning America, and they're such a business mogul brand that's revered, right? And they'll ask you like, how did this all start? And they'll say a story like what you just said, like, I was living in the South, since snow don't come often, and I learned to crochet. I started selling these scarves, and then years later someone messaged me like, hey, I want one of those scarves again. Do you still do that? And the idea sparked, and it's all history. And now look at me. I'm a million. You know what I mean? I always thought,
now
like,
I bought a factory that makes them. It's not even me crocheting it. Yeah.
And then that's the story in my head I always hear of, like, it only takes that one thing. So like when something fails, because I think I'm gonna make this necklace, and that's gonna be the thing, and then you realize, okay, I can't even do this shit, so I just give up. But then also I listen to all these stories of all these like moguls and business people. And when I say mogul, I'm not meaning like every like, whatever. And they never seem to explain like, or like the typical story of like, I almost filed for bankruptcy. I only had $50 in my pocket, and somehow I yielded that to create a multi-million-dollar business. And I'm like, you need to break it down how the fuck that is possible, besides just saying, and it was all history. Like, no.
I know.
How the hell do you have $50? And what did you do? Like that, I need to hear that. And that almost is never, ever explained by anyone of like how.
Ugly, or if they do have it in a journal or a diary, because I have a lot of those stories. It's so dark, it's hard to go back. Or you write it, but you write it and you just say that it's fiction. Because, like, I have a story like that where I literally had 23 cents in my account. But, like, all of a sudden I looked at some piece of mail and I was like, oh, I have a retirement account. And then I went to the Ohio State website and I was like, oh, I have $18 unclaimed, like, funds. I just was like, it almost felt like surprise. $300 was found. And I was like,
I know, but I feel like that could help certainly people like me, where I hear that and I'm like, listen, I almost constantly at the end of the day have only a matter of equivalent of a few dollars.
Yeah.
Right? And I look at that purely as defeat. I'm like, that is not possible. There's nothing I could do because everything costs something, which is not a lie, right? We all know it. So for someone like me, instead of feeling defeated, those people with those dark stories that might be hard to write about, and I don't take that away, we need more people to speak exactly what the hell they mean. Because there's a lot of people that are defeated because they see, wow, I only have $10. I have a vision in my brain that I have such passion for, but because of how I look at my bank account, there is absolutely no way that I could even remotely think that it's possible.
Yeah.
And then you hear a story again, one on Good Morning America, that said I was homeless and I had no money, and now look at me, like I somehow wielded. I'm like, what did you say you wielded your $50? What the fuck does that mean?
Well, I think that's fascinating. No, I think it's fascinating because I'm starting a book for You Are a Lawyer. It's going to be like the advice I've gotten from interviewing 250 lawyers, interviewing 300 lawyers. I've had 247 interviews out, but then I went and pulled it up, and I've actually interviewed 211 people. Because sometimes I do rewind episodes. Sometimes I talk to people twice. I have a couple solo episodes. And I'm going to include a lot of the like dirty stuff when I was in law school. Because I was homeless for about 7 weeks. I failed 2 classes and was taking a property law class at LSU, and like wouldn't tell any of my classmates that I had failed from the last semester. Like, it was stupid. So that won't be the whole point of the book, but when I started writing it, I started to make it fiction, because you're like, you feel so exposed. You're like, yeah, I'll just change the names. But it was like, no, I stayed on 3 different friends' couches, and they were like, but we all got finals too. You got to go. I was like,
yeah. I think people need more than ever to hear those stories. And you know me, I've always believed that. That's why I started and paused temporarily for my podcast. But like, I always talk about writing a book, like a memoir. And I used to be like in my 20s thinking, what do you know? You can't do that. And then I always felt that urge of having something to say. My bigger point being, I think more than ever, people need to hear real life, human experience stories of exactly what you just described. Because there are so many people out there. I would probably argue, I don't know any statistic at the top of my head. It's a very common story, though, especially right now. It's just like everything from the cost of living to like life is so hard that it's easy to flunk classes right now because you're so distracted of trying. We always say this because living is just hard
Hard.
a daily basis, right? We're all surviving at the end of the day. That I feel like there's such power in people telling their stories, and fortunately, and I mean, I don't view it as unfortunately. I view it as what a fortunate thing that could be for other people to hear your experience, as be painful or uncomfortable for one person to write. I always think, man, but you know what? You have the potential to, I'm going to say, change so many people's lives. I've always viewed it as if there's one person that could hear anything that I say and hear what I've gone through, that makes them just slightly think differently, to me, that everything is worth it. Even if it's just that one person, because that's one human being that thought, wow, I'm in law school too, and I am struggling, and I don't know how I'm going to do this. And this lady was able to only conquer it, but look at her now, has her own podcast where she's literally interviewing lawyers. And now she's writing a book about it. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel like I could do it too. I just feel like there's such power in that. So I think you should write everything and anything.
I will. In fact, I'll put up a social media about it. Because whenever I put up one talking about how I failed the bar, people are always like, wow, thanks for sharing. And I'm like,
oh, I'm sure.
Do you know how hard that was? Like, I usually end up posting it and then putting my phone down for the rest of the day. Because you do get a couple of comments where people are like, what are you talking? Like, I put up something about my law degree wasn't valuable. And they were like, are you crazy? Do you know how much money you spent on that? And I was like, that doesn't make something valuable. I was like,
right. That's not the point. Yeah.
Because I'm honestly still paying it off 10 years later. So it's
right.
No, I like that. I'll mention that because I am on the other side. It's a long time for you to see the hindsight of it, though.
Right, it really does. It takes a lot of. It's a whole journey within itself. It's one thing to come, like what you just said, on the other side of it. It's another thing to be able to feel like, okay, I could actually talk about this publicly on any kind of platform or media, whatever that happens to be. Like, that takes a lot of courage on one's part to be, vulnerable. I always say, I think as human beings, the most powerful thing that I believe we could do is allow ourselves to be vulnerable with others. Because you probably we know this from just job experience that we've had and people that we cross paths with in life. Not everyone can, and it doesn't make them less personable. However, there's so many people, when you really think about it, you're like, wow, I don't know anything challenging about them that they've gone through. They always seem happy, or, like you see them pissed off or angry, but you don't know, like, what sparks that, what have they gone through that causes that kind of reaction? You know what I mean? And that's why I always think it is such a superpower that we have the ability, when we have the ability to allow ourselves to be vulnerable and tell all these so shiny stories about ourselves.
No, it's true. It's really true. And I think this was an unintentional great tee-up for the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Season 17, honestly. Episode 3, because Angela gets really vulnerable. Michelle is literally vulnerable. It starts with her leaving the hospital.
Very much so.
Drew kind of is vulnerable, but like there's some stuff going on.
Yeah, Pinky's vulnerable. No one is kind of like a fish out of water. And that's what makes, a good show, a good cast. So it seems like everyone's gelling in the way that it's supposed to. And it's making great TV.
Yeah. One of my first notes here is, like, I love how we celebrate. A lot of people celebrate, and especially in the Black community. We often say, like, I don't look like what I've been through. But it kind of made me sad that K. Michelle couldn't just leave the hospital in sweats, chilling. She had to get done up and put a suit on. But I was like, okay, Kyla, that's more than her being strong. She's literally a celebrity. People will be waiting to take that picture and sell it of her looking crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, well, let's get into it. So the episode does start with K. Michelle had to undergo a 2-hour surgery to remove the infected tissue from a previous procedure. In essence, she got an illegal surgery. Well, illegal here, having silicone injected, extremely painful, and it happens when you inject silicone into your body. Yeah. It's so harmful. And what Kyla's referencing, poor thing, is that she joined Portia, Cynthia, and Phaedra for pedicures, and she was dressed to the nines.
She looked great.
I mean, she looked beautiful. And this is an unfortunate situation, but maybe putting on makeup and a cute, top is her superwoman cape, for instance, of like, okay, I can continue to exist despite this awful situation by looking great, and I'm like, now I don't have the strength to do that, but that's not my thing. So I appreciate it for what it is. And you're right, she did look pretty.
She did. And I don't know enough about her surgery. And I was like,
right,
you're able to literally go and sit down like right now.
I know it is kind of yeah. Oh, it sounds awful. Oh,
I know. I left the scene thinking she has a great assistant, because her personal assistant was with her in episode 2 as well, when she had the accident, and she was with her in the hospital. I was like, man, that's great. Yeah.
Thank God she had them.
But yes, they get to pedicures, and my girl Cynthia's there. I love Miss Cynthia Bailey. So it's Cynthia, Portia, K. Michelle. Was Phaedra there? Okay.
Yep, Phaedra's there. Yep.
And so they start chatting, and it gets interesting.
Sure it does. Here's the thing. So Michelle revealed in her confessional that Portia already knew exactly what was going on with her surgery complications. It says that they actually bonded for it because Portia went through something similar with her boobs, I guess. I know that she's had her boobs done. I could be wrong. I'm thinking in past seasons. I don't know if she was ever publicly disclosed something like this. I'm not saying she didn't. I just don't remember. She's been open about like having her boobs done. I remember at the reunion, her second reunion ever. I think it was her second. Yeah, it was. And she came back actually. She was getting divorced, or she had been divorced at that time. And her boobs were quite big and they looked great. And she was not shy about them, and she isn't. So I don't think I knew that. I could be wrong. It's interesting because this is where we start to see a crack in their friendships, so to speak. I don't know how long the crack is going to go, but I took it as like, okay, it's one thing to talk about it. I get that. But you're with a group of friends, I kind of do the same thing a little bit of, okay, if we're with a group of friends and you told me that you had like this like health complication, let's say, and now we're in a group, maybe I wasn't there, so I don't know what her motives were, but sometimes I say certain things to help guide maybe the conversation along. So I guess it could sound as if maybe I don't know as much as I do, but I'm mostly saying it to like help, weave the conversation for the other group.
And build excitement for everyone else.
Yeah.
But because I do that too. I think most people who are good listeners do that, because the opposite of that is, oh yeah, I know it was scary, and basically letting everyone know that you knew already, which can be one-upping. But you don't go as far as Portia went, right?
You mean the miscarriage thing?
The miscarriage. And she says,
okay, yeah.
And I had to wait until they re-rolled the clip, because I forgot that K. Michelle had told Portia that she did want to have another child and she was going to try for a girl. I completely forgot that. Okay, you guys got to remember, this is reality TV time. If 2 days ago I told you I was trying to have a kid, and now I'm in the hospital, and you're like, a miscarriage, and you're going to say that in front of all these people, and like, I could see how that would be very, very frustrating, right?
Yeah.
I had to put myself in K. Michelle's shoes, because I was like, I thought she was just kind of egging it on too. Like, we were all just guessing what it was. But it made K. Michelle feel like she wasn't important. Like, oh, you clearly weren't listening to the words I'm saying, or I see that.
I see both sides if there is one. So I remember before I saw the episode, I saw a clip about K. Michelle talking about this. I haven't seen the episode, or it was actually Pinky Cole. She was a podcast interview that she did, and they asked her about this conversation, but it was before I actually watched the episode. I was kind of like, what happened? And then I watched it, and I mean, I guess it's tough because I don't know how far back the conversation goes in terms of Portia and K. Michelle's conversation, us not being there. Because when she said it, I guess if I'm looking at it in this way, I'm with a group of friends, girls, let's say women, and they described and they say, and I'm paraphrasing, like, yep, I went to this thing and I sat down and I stood up from sitting down and I was all wet down there, like below my waist. It was, I'm not saying, no, I wouldn't say that out loud. oh, you got a cut?
I
Oh, you
know.
had a miscarriage? Like, I hope Portia does own that. However, and this is where maybe you can certainly speak more about this, because I don't, again, I'm not a woman. My second thought was, okay, is that how women maybe speak in a group of women? Like, is that something that they could say comfortably there versus, at a big public event? Now, however, I do understand we're on national TV and they are in a salon or spa, whatever it
Yeah.
was. So I do acknowledge that. So I'm not that ignorant. However, there was a part of me that was like, is that maybe...
You're like, what else would they have been talking about? I don't understand.
Personally would not verbalize that, because that would be very tragic, right? However, I was like, well, I didn't get the vibe that it was malice. Those dots do not connect for me. I think it may be ignorance in that moment would be better suited,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was like she intentionally meant harm. I just think it was just, and I think she did apologize, from my understanding.
She did.
Right? Oh, yeah,
because
they talked about it.
A really good apology,
Yes.
and she was like, I'm on the March of Dimes, like, board. I would not joke about women miscarrying.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, when you have a miscarriage, it's very painful.
Yeah.
And also, you see those posters everywhere. Life starts at 17 days. So it's more than uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get pregnant, you're like, that was a baby. That was a child.
Sure, yeah.
So there's all of that emotion part to it. But we kind of talked about this when we talked about the Rhode Island cast, because someone else there the hardest part about being pregnant is you have no idea what's happening unless something goes wrong.
Sure.
You just expect your body is holding the baby, and then you have a couple checkups. And if you're healthy and having a great time, they only check you like until you're about 7 months. Then they start checking like every 2 weeks. And then the last month is every week. But before then, your doctor's just like, how are you doing? How's things? How are things? Right. And I had a pandemic baby. So they were literally like, tell me your blood pressure on your Apple Watch. What's your weight today? Like, so much of that was virtual. So you literally don't know unless something is wrong. But I could see where K. Michelle was hurt. And at one point she actually says, I got Kelly, because remember, we saw a scene of K. Michelle, Portia, and Kelly all together. And this was when Portia called Kelly out for allegedly sleeping with married men. And K. Michelle's just sitting there like, what's happening? Wait, what? Why are you talking about this while I'm here? What's happening? And when she equated that, she was like, oh, I just got Kelly. Like, she's being slick, talking about me in front of all these people. It was very, very interesting. So
it was.
I don't believe, for you and I, we have some history with Portia. And even if you've only seen her on TV, I'm sure it's different in person. So we feel like there probably was not malice, maybe to your point. Well, to anyone that watched it, maybe it was a little bit of joking or even like ignorance in the comment. It was just too flippant. But I don't know. K. Michelle's like, I don't know. Of all the things we could have joked about, clearly that is not it.
Hey, that would not be the
Portia does not try it again.
I don't think she was trying to be funny. She made it clear, like I said, in her apology, or in, like you mentioned, in her apology, that is not something she takes lightly. Like, I made a joke not that long ago. Well, in this instance, I was trying to be like sarcastic, rather, with my best friend. This is before his grandmother passed away. But she was actively sick, and they know it was coming at some point, like relatively soon. She has since passed, unfortunately. Rest in peace. I remember he was getting ready. He had like a black shirt on. We're just hanging out, and he was wearing all black. And I said, "What are you in the morning?" He's like, "Really?" You know what I mean? We step in it sometimes, and it was maybe I'm not as funny sometimes, but it was just like my wit kicked in, and sometimes with that, you just say what's. It funnels through and without any thought. That's what I think that she probably had was thing about being malicious. It came out, but she took accountability. That's what adults do.
She took accountability, and she took accountability in her confessionals. But honestly, K. Michelle held her feet to the fire at the end of the episode too, where she was like, "Let's go talk," and she literally was like, "Yeah, order your little drink." Why did you?
She handled herself. Yeah, she handled business. That's for sure.
She took right good care of it.
You could say I have not much to say on this, but we do see a little bit of Shamea's rum venture. So Shamea made moves to launch a peach rum line, partnering with a rum company in Grenada. Now, they went to Grenada last year on a cash trip, so I like that
Because I was like, where did this come from? Is her husband
Yeah, they
from
went last
Grenada?
year.
Okay.
So I love that she established like a connection there to want to do this. So I think that's cool. I mean, I think that's great. The cameras followed her as she met with execs and lawyers to make it happen.
It was cute.
It is.
Although,
Here's the thing
doesn't
with
somebody
these.
already have a drink with a bottle that's shaped like a butt?
I
Or
don't
is
know
it
about
Kim
that, but
had with the Skims? I think Kim's fragrance was like her chest, like the bottle of
that so
it.
does Billie Eilish's fragrance. Looks like that too. It's like a bust.
Okay.
I don't know. Here's the thing. This is a housewife starting a business. Great, as one should. Flex that. You have the marketing that is Housewives. I think we're so, at least us fans are somewhat numb to like business ventures that housewives do, because of course someone's starting a sock line, a clothing line, a jewelry line, a scarf line, a rum line, a vodka line. They all do. And here's the thing, I'm not taking away from like, get your bag, go ahead and do it, but there's at the same time, and I say numb because lots of them fizzle, or they magically, I'm like, wait a minute, whatever happened to Dorit's bathing suit line? I just don't hear about it anymore. There's no follow-up. They're like, okay, we like a typical business, if it's not making enough money, it's no longer profitable, it doesn't make sense to continue it, they release a statement and a company closes. You don't often get that full circle moment with a lot of these housewives businesses. So this is nothing against Shamea. It's just, I've been watching these shows since 2006. So it's like, okay, another business. Okay, let's see what happens. And that's nothing against her. It's just,
I'm making a list of housewives businesses and books. I think we should keep like the ultimate list. You are the housewives historian. I think we should.
I have most of the books. I even buy the books of the housewives I do not like, because in my psychotic mind, if someone was to come over, I'm like, look, here's my housewives book collection. Like, if you want.
When we have our studio, you can like have them lined up behind us, all the books. And then when people come over to like talk to us, they can sign them. So, but wait.
Okay, that's a manifesting.
What is her passion for rum? Has she
that's what I mean.
Loved it? Has she always been obsessed with it? And then she finds out where it's made?
This is a great point that you're making now, right? Is I think where the numbness comes is, I don't know the ratio or the stats, right? So I'm just speaking out loud from observation. I don't know what her connection to rum is, besides probably drinking it occasionally. That's why I'm so numb to these businesses, because you hear someone talk about a thing and, enter product here. I love coffee. I am a former barista. It is my dream to have my own coffee shop. So I do things actively in small doses. I'm not going to tomorrow just buy, a building and open a coffee shop and hope for the best. Like, so that's what I mean of like, oftentimes it's like, I'm not sure there is much of an emotional connection. Which, if you have to slap your name on something and make some money, you don't got to explain that to me. Do it. As long as you have a good product. I'm saying this as if I'm like on Shark Tank or something and I have, a pot to piss in. But it's just like housewife shows when the women are not friends. It seems inauthentic, and you can tell, right? Because they're not gelling, because they don't know each other. I think people can sense like, this product is not great because the creator, let's say, isn't emotionally connected to the product. You just create a product to have a product. Like, oh, wow, I drink
even
seltzer.
To the point of like, how can we get the peach in it? I was like, well, you can just make like a peach mixer and send it down there, and then they can. Mm-hmm. But even that, she's like, I just want it to be peach because I'm from Georgia, and was like,
yeah. I have a note here that Shamea doesn't need the money. Obviously, we've seen her home, and her husband has a lot of money. She wants something for herself. She wants something. That. Mm-hmm. Right. So she has been very vocal about like having her thing, which I think is fantastic. I support you, girl. Get it. Again, what do I know? Not much. However, I think a proper business, and when I say proper, I mean one that could probably flourish, I think, is having something that you all that actually are passionate about. Just like, again, I like furniture. Maybe I'll have my own furniture line. Like, there's a lot of things I like, but I'm not invested in it to create. If that's the case, we would all like have so many things. And I would also argue too, here's the thing. Housewives, just full disclosure, all don't have to be entrepreneurs. Don't need to create products. Like,
you're already the brand by just being on the show.
right.
Chill. Yeah.
Collabs, those are cool. Capsule collections, you want to work with like, hey, let's like design something together. I love that. And you know who's a queen of that kind of shit is Miss Cynthia Bailey, who has done a lot of things with like, she used to do something with Seagrams and had her own like collab with
she has a winery.
And,
she could connect her with people in the States. Yeah.
Right. She ain't trying to like do things just to do things. And if you, I don't want to say just to do things. I'm not saying that's what she's her, vision. I think she's strategic in terms of business ventures of like, I do like Seagrams. I don't need to start my own alcohol brand, but I want to work with one. That's very different. I think that's a lot smarter. So, listen, all power to you. I love that she wants something for herself. I highly encourage that because I don't think anyone should be dependent on anyone for money. I hope it works out for her. I hope she really is invested, not just financially, but also emotionally, so that this is something that could be, last a long time, and not one day we're going to be like, wait, do you remember Shamea had a rum line or something? Like, I don't want that to be the result.
Yeah.
And then we get into Pinky's financial stuff. So Pinky met with a lawyer and explained that she's the personal guarantor of her business, which has created a significant headache as debts piled up into the millions. She's caught up in a $100,000 lawsuit over illegally airing a boxing match at one of her businesses. And then there's also a $2 million liquor license dispute. And Pinky broke down in tears walking through it all with this lawyer. I don't understand the legalities of how stuff like this works. All I hear is she's gotten some financial issues that she's trying to figure out. And maybe filing for bankruptcy may be the ultimate solution. I don't know much about bankruptcy. I've since learned that not everyone qualifies for bankruptcy. I didn't know that. I just thought anyone could. Like, oh, wow, I have a lot of debt and I actually have no money to pay it. So this is my option. But, I mean, listen.
You have to qualify, but I think the overwhelming theme of the entire scene is she is so ashamed. She is so
that reach.
Like,
she gets very emotional,
distraught. She's crying in there with her attorney, but also she just is like, she mentions that she hasn't told her husband and she wants to deal with it on her own. And she's like, I got into this. I want to get out of it. Today, I feel like I would have told Theo, who's my husband. When we were first married, no. A lot of your traumas that you have don't come up until you're in a healthy relationship. And so, like, you're like, oh my God, I trust you. Yay, we can get married. And then you're like, but I don't trust you to where you know how much money I make. And I don't trust you to where you know what's in my 401k. But I don't trust you to where, like, why do you need to know that? It doesn't matter to our bills now.
Right.
And even when we lived together before we got married, we had a joint account that covered all of our joint bills. But you still have your own cards, so that if you want to get me a gift, I don't see everything you're buying.
Sure.
But also, I can't be mad if I see a statement and you got $25,000. Unless I need $5,000 and I don't know to ask you and you don't know to tell me. You know what I'm saying? So there's...
Yeah, I do.
Today, it would hurt my feelings, but I'm also 7 years into being married. And I had not started my businesses before. I did specifically want a prenup, though, because I had a lot of school debt. And so...
And you didn't want that to fall on him in any kind of way.
I didn't want him to get my books if anything happened. It was a whole bunch of stuff. But if I had an existing business, getting married, I think it probably would add a whole nother level to what I would disclose, especially if you're not my financial operator.
Right.
I mean, because... How many things do you be like, I'm going to do that? And I'm like, yeah, you think you want to do that? And I'm like, stop. You're not going to listen to me, but you're going to decide on your own. I'm like, I'm trying to be a listening board, but instead I'm giving you my opinion. Sorry. So he'll tell me things. He's like, oh my God, we're going to do this thing. And I'm like, great. And you got to be like, listen and encourage. Don't be like, well, didn't you start? How's this going to be different than the last one? So there is a very, very fine line. Right. Yeah. Even with the way that you can complain about a corporate job is different than your business.
Sure.
the thing that you created that exists outside of you. Like, that's how I used to feel when I would crochet. It's like this one skein of yarn turned into that blanket. You're just like amazed. She's protective of it. So I can't say that she's wrong.
I don't think so either. What I appreciate about her story thus far is her vulnerability with the audience, right? Because I think, as we mentioned in the previous portion of the beginning of our episode of your journey with writing your book and the vulnerability, and like these things help people. It's exposure to those that maybe in similar situations, or maybe one day they find themselves in a similar situation, right? So I think it only helps people feel more empowered and comfortable with their situation. This is why we all, maybe, I'm not speaking for her by any chance because I don't know her, but I feel like oftentimes we are very independent and private with these types of things because we don't see many examples before us to be as open and ask for help. I know that's my case. Yeah. You know, I rarely ask for help in terms of the real deep stuff because I'm extremely independent. And I view it as, and it sounds like she might feel this way a bit too. I don't want to burden others with my problems. I need to figure it out. If I ask for help, it's because shit's about to hit the fan and I've hit rock bottom and I have no other options. And you come with your tail between your legs and you're like, at that point, it's usually like harder to fix, right? Instead of like, maybe if you were just a little more vocal with your support system, maybe.
But also now you can say, look, I tried these 17 ways.
It's all a learning experience. Ta-da! In my eyes.
You know and now I'm here with you because they didn't work.
There is probably a side, I'm not saying for her necessarily, just in general, of like, okay, you know, my business is in trouble, this financial issues, oh my gosh, let me figure it out. I'm sure that there is actually validation and a feeling of like such accomplishment if you are in fact able to figure it out on your own. So you can have the story of like, you know, I went through this, and this, and while I kept it private, look, I was able to do this. It's like, now here I say that with a little bit of trepidation because I'm not fully sold that's I'm not going to say I'm sold at all. That's a risk when you don't ask for help or seek advice. And I mean, that's also with your inner circle of people, because that might just be what you're talking about, right? Of a sounding board. Like, I don't need you to fix my mess. I need to verbalize it to somebody who can just listen, and I don't need advice at this moment, or I need money from you to help fix it. I'm going to ask you. We can make that pact right now, kind of a thing. There's that portion to it. So extremely complicated in terms of not telling your significant other. You know, I can't relate to that in any shape of the imagination, so I can't speak on that. You know, there's a part of me that can sit here and go, well, if I did, I would want them to know. And there's a part of me that goes, that doesn't seem natural for my personality. Because when it comes to finances, we've talked about this a lot. That is such an intimate thing, which is funny because
it's the least intimate thing in the world.
Right, exactly. Intimate. You know what I mean? Like there's there can be such shame. And and it sounds like she struggles with that of like, it is not sexy to go tell your man, I have to file bankruptcy and this happened and I don't know what to do. You want your spouse, you want your significant other to look at you as a superstar. And we as a society, I think, have built ourselves up to like, in order to do that, it looks like this, which is just success, not failure.
You don't want them to hold it over you.
And we have, I think, created that narrative more than that actually being the case. And her husband seems like a pretty, you know, stand-up guy. That I don't think that's an issue here. However, it seems to be an instinct within us to not tell our significant others when shit's hitting the fan because it ain't sexy.
Well, we've created that narrative, but also we've created it because it's a real narrative. Like, you become an entrepreneur because you have taken a problem and solved it and people pay you for it. Yeah, I don't want to come and tell you all of this stuff because even if she tells them and he says, oh, I've dealt with that, that still doesn't change how she feels with it. 100%. And also, I would say that her delivery of whatever she needs to tell is more important than any of it.
I agree.
Right? Because when I first got married, I was the type where if I was having a bad day, you were having a bad day. So if I was stressed about money, I'm coming downstairs because that's where my husband's office is. I'm just like, I can't even buy bread and I'm cutting coupons because we can't get this. And he's like, do you need some money? But I didn't like have an allowance either. So then we had to chat about that. But like, remember, you still live with this person. And so now, even though you might be thinking like, I gotta buy the cheap milk or the cheap paper towels or whatever to cover things, you don't know what they're thinking about either. They could have their own stress, or, oh, I just had this big meeting too. It ties back into how the episode started.
Yeah.
With us talking about you having to be the strong one. The ironic thing about it is that once you find someone that you can be vulnerable with, you just don't want to like take it for granted to like use it all the time.
Right. Well, because then you don't want to be, considered too much, or like in my narrative, it's always when you deal with these kind of things on your own too much because you think, I don't have a person. My friends are my people solely. And I'm not saying there's people that are overly dramatic and whatever, but on the flip side, again, going back to life is hard as it is, living is hard. It only takes one thing for the dominoes to fall. If I'm in a relationship, I don't want to go downstairs and say I can't afford this because I don't want them to look at me like, damn, he's always broke. You know what I mean? Like those are the things that I already hear in my head before I even do the thing.
No, it's true. Or I would like so over explain. Like, well, I had this and then I had that and then I had this and then that thing came out early and then this. And it's really hard because everyone deals with money different. And
oh my God, yeah.
And my husband does not, he's a trusting guy, which is great. But he doesn't want to know the details. He's like, what do we need for the whole month? Like, he doesn't want me to come to him and be like,
that's probably for the best.
Well, honestly, it's the best for us because I have trust issues with money because I've had, like, my fiance stole from me when I was in law school. So I'm like, I am going to manage the money. If he ever asked me, he would be like, did you get a CPA? And I'd be like, well, I studied forensic accounting. Like, here's the books.
Right. But it's good. That's a blessing, yeah.
I believe that Pinky will eventually be able to talk to her guy about it. I also can see, because we've seen this before on TV, if he is there and if he was a different kind of guy, they both go to the office and then like the attorney's only talking to the man. Yeah. Right? Or he's asking questions that she doesn't know to ask about. Now she feels like she's not in charge. So there's a whole bunch of layers.
And I have to imagine there's also the added, layer where you just said, you kind of hinted at part of it. Like she's a woman, right? So there is that judgment that unfortunately in this misogynistic society that we live in, and she's a Black woman at that. So I'm sure there's a pressure of feeling like I have to succeed because I have to be an example to others, or when you're quote unquote a role model to people, or whatever you want to call yourself, or how you feel like you're viewed, that comes with an added pressure to be like successful and only showing the good, because it's like, what does this say about me if I can't do it and other people are in positions where again they're looking at me? What does this say? Like Pinky Cole filing for bankruptcy. Like, how does that look? We unfortunately live in also a racist society that people can look at that and be like, of course she did. You know what I mean? And that's a horrible, horrible, egregious thing to even think of. So I can't imagine what that pressure must feel like also too. So she's a bad bitch, so she knows she will come through. I have no doubt.
Well, it's complicated that it is a real psychological thing that people remember the negative stuff more than the positive stuff. Oh my God,
yeah. You're so right.
And so, wow, she had to file for bankruptcy. Wow. But she's been profitable for 5 years.
It doesn't dismiss all the good stuff. Right.
But unfortunately it does, because the negative stuff is so much louder. So
speaking of negative, we briefly talked about K. Michelle's tweets from last summer.
I thought that was so funny. I love that part.
It is kind of hilarious. But we remember that last summer, K. Michelle was firing off posts an unnamed bimbo who had her feeling activated. Well,
wait, so she hadn't been announced on the show yet?
I seen it floated online, but it was never confirmed. Now we know it was Portia that she was talking about.
And then they had her read some of the tweets. It was so cute.
That was good.
They have a whole other production budget for the Atlanta team. It was
as they should, because this show traditionally has always just been, yes, they're entertaining. Of course they are, but they know how to put on a show. Let's put it that. But it's not in a. I don't mean that in like they're acting kind of way. I mean that as in, they're authentic and they are themselves, and that is what makes perfect TV. It's
Yeah.
people not trying to do anything for the sake of clicks and views. They are literally themselves, and they're pretty good. So they should get
I would say
the budgets.
Kudos to the casting, because
totally
the casting directors and managers, they pick people who are dramatic in their regular life, which means they bring that kind of drama to the show.
Right. It's not forced.
Which is good.
Yeah, it's not forced.
Because some people are high effort people and some people are chill people. And they pick people who, like, Portia is dressed like that at her house, but nobody's here. And you need those people on TV, because then you're like, yeah, this is just a regular Monday for her. Another person going through, you know, just the rockiness of business is Angela, because they showed us images of all of the houses that she bought last year and was trying to flip or sell.
Girl, she spent $2 million on that.
And then now we get to see her at a house in Duluth, and it's a $159,000 house for 3 bedrooms. Listen, I will take that. Duluth is not too far outside of the city.
I had a friend that lived there.
And I'm laughing because they keep showing all these shots of spiders. I'm like,
why you got to do that to her?
Every house.
I was gonna say, but why you got to do that to her? She's just trying to show her daughter this house.
Yes, but that's my first time seeing her daughter, Amari. And she mentions that they're getting their relationship back because she didn't tell her that she was married, and that really hurt her feelings. And she's like, I bought this property so that I could kind of bring some closure to 2024, because 2024 was hard. Her mom passes. And I think it's really touching because one of the producers asked her, like, does it get easier? And she's like, no. And I can honestly say it doesn't, because your birthday shows up. You've never had a birthday without your mom. And then Christmas is here. You never had a Christmas without your
constant
mom.
Reminder. Right? Yeah, to some extent,
literally,
for sure.
You'll be in a store and you smell something. You're like, my mom wore that. You were all... Because grief doesn't play fair. My mom's favorite rule for grief is that, like, don't send your card for 8 weeks. Because everybody bombards you up close, and you need to send it late so that then you get it, and then you're like, oh, someone's still thinking about me, right?
That's true.
Grief is it's hard.
Grief is different for everybody too. It shows up differently. Talk about being private. That's sometimes people are very private about their grief. They don't want to talk about it. I can be like that sometimes. I was talking about it to my friend at work who's a big, like, she's a Disney adult. She loves everything Disney. Remember when we saw The Devil Wears Prada 2, they showed the Moana live action trailer, right? And she wants to go see it. And I said, oh my God, I do too. Obviously, I love Moana. I'm Hawaiian. It's not Hawaiian story, but it's based on Polynesian culture. My Polynesian family in particular, my grandmother loved Hawaii. Everything had to do with Hawaiian culture. It was almost like equivalent to like my big fat Greek wedding, and how the dad could always, everything came back to being Greek. She was
put some Windex on it.
Exactly. She had like a touch of that, let's say. When I saw Moana in theaters, I forgot why, but I was in Alaska, and we went as a family and saw it. And of course, in Moana, her grandmother is a big part of her story. And I'm like, oh my God, like seeing the live action. And like, I haven't watched Moana since seeing it in theaters all those years ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it just made me think, well, I actually saw this with my grandmother. And I'm like, no, she's since passed. She passed away last year. And so to your point, though, that's another example. They just, sometimes when you least expect it, but something like that, you're like, it jolts you. Even like a year and a few months later, you're like, oh shit, you know what I mean? And that doesn't make me cry. That actually makes me happy. But that's how I look at grief. I think about memories, and I think it's such a blessing when you have those moments where you get to be jolted back and smell the smell, and you're instantly brought back. I think I look at those as beautiful things for myself.
I think so too. I think of them as like little waves from your loved
I love
one,
that. Little waves, yes.
No one really told me about like the fun part about like my dad loves soccer. So like you'll see a soccer match on and that'll make you smile. It doesn't make you like, oh, I miss you, and make you smile. My mom, her way of dealing with grief was she renovated and redecorated her entire house. But then I couldn't go in her house for 2 years. Because when I used to walk in there, my dad would be standing in that room and it was orange.
Yeah.
And now it's silver. And I'm just like, you're
like, where is it?
His house.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. Yeah. I can see that too.
So tell me about Amari. She's married. She's 25.
To a woman. Yeah, she's married to a woman.
Okay, because she kept saying partner, but it felt like it was really
she's
intentional.
Gay.
Okay. And so did Angela not know that she was dating women? Or was the marriage the secret?
Marriage was the secret.
Okay.
She was talking about how her daughter was openly gay, and obviously she supports her and loves her. We love an ally. Thank you, girl. So yeah, it was the marriage that she was blindsided by. Obviously, because she wasn't there too. So she's probably in her feelings, and rightfully so, I can imagine. And I know that Angela also had a complicated relationship with her mother.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. I'm sure that brings up something for her.
And especially having a daughter, and she's the daughter to her mom.
Right.
Yeah. And I love, they did show a clip of her mom, and she calls her Pumpkin, and I call Maddie Pumpkin. I was like, oh, Pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
So Amari calls Charles, so that is not her father.
Mm-mm.
And I wonder...
I don't think they have children together, yeah.
Okay, because I was like, I want to go back and watch season 16, because... yeah, you're upset because you want to be at the wedding, but clearly Angela has had other relationships. And I was like, maybe she just wanted to make sure you were prepared because this is a big relationship and she didn't get to be involved. That's a pretty big snub. Even though it's hard to even say that because it's not about you. It's about the kids, but it's
yeah, but I can imagine both things could be true at the same time, right? Like, you can be hurt because you love and take care of your kids. Well, hell, like, you raise them. You're like, I'll be crazy if I wanted us to be there to watch you get married. However, to your point, too, it's like, well, as long as my daughter is happy and my kid's happy, they're good, and they're making the decision for themselves. I recognize that they're own individuals and independent people. So I think both can probably be true at the same time. I can see it all. And so I'm sure it doesn't feel good, but she's not going to hang it over her head. It's like, okay, she wants to bring her along for this journey. Even though her daughter was like, really, you're doing this again? Like, this didn't go good for you the first time. But Angela was buying like mansions before. At least this one seems more modest.
This one is modest. You could tell that it needs some renovations, but also I like the vulnerability of her calling her out. I love that.
Oh my God. It shows you what kind of relationship they have.
To be like, Mom, why are you doing this? And did you tell Charles, and has he seen the house? I actually like that part. But let's talk about Drew and Black, because they have a little date.
They sure do.
Listen, child. She's like, I just love spending time with him. We're on the same page. Bitch, you two are not on the same page.
I'm not sure you are.
He is literally saying, you have someone else investing in you and I don't share. She's like, I love you so much. You love him, but you're not in love with him. We need to talk about that, because then he's like, I'll always be here for you. I love you. She's like, yeah, even if I get a man... girl, y'all are not on the same page. This man is waiting for you to get rid of Ralph in the basement so that he can be with you, not take you on dates as your friend. So I thought that was so fun, honestly. And I even have a note here. And I was like, damn, Drew is a good actress, because y'all are not on the same page. I think she's telling us that, and she knows they are not on the same page. But it was a cute little date. It was cute.
It was. I mean, girl, have fun. I mean... her ex-husband, or I don't think they're officially divorced. He was a real dick to her.
Yeah.
You know, when I look back on all those years watching all those episodes, I'm like, maybe y'all weren't good for each other. It seemed like
she was nasty to him sometimes too.
Sometimes, and with her, it's kind of like the punishment doesn't fit the crime kind of a thing. Whereas he was like a real dick to her. Like and just remember, like, looking back, I can't remember the specifics, but I remember her trying to show him a good time. They go on a date, and he was just such a fucking asshole to her. And I'm just like, she did not deserve it. I used to really like her. I'm a little surprised that she's still on the show. Her season before that, but on season 15, it was kind of like, I basically don't remember what she did, which goes to show you everything you need to know. So, look, whatever, go date.
The only thing I have left in my notes is Pinky and Derek. They have their date night at the end. And I have one thing. I'm like, I'm not a fan of a low effort man. And so I really like that they're still dating.
That part.
They're still going out. And
making an effort.
We get the surprise of her saying, after a year of marriage, they were like, look, let's stop this. It's too much. It's not going the way we want to. And they actually drove to the courthouse to file for separation or divorce. And they both were like, never mind, let's not do it. And they decided to stay married. So I love that because to piggyback off of not caring about Drew and her dates and Ralph and her being married but estranged from, you have to love and like your significant other.
Yes.
Period.
Well, sure. I have to imagine.
Love is not enough. If you do not like them, you don't want to hear about their day. You don't care what they're eating for dinner. You're not washing their clothes. You have to like them. If I wrote a book and my husband didn't read my book and he's not a lawyer, why the fuck are you here? Like, you have to like the other person. That's the only thing that's going to get you through stupid conversations about everything. Love is cute, but you have to like the other person. Ralph did not like Drew. Attraction is different. You can be attracted to someone.
He's hot.
But he did not like her.
I don't think he did. At least not from what we saw. I'm sure maybe there was a time that he did, but even that kid.
Well, they had that whole like preacher's kid church part 2. So it was like, did y'all get married just to have sex because y'all weren't allowed to? Like, there was a lot there.
I'm like, that never works out in anyone's favor. Sorry.
Ever. But Pinky and Derek, they like each other. And so I'm excited for them. I thought their little date night was cute. And she mentions that Phaedra is running around telling people that she was going to say, meat.
Her allegation surfaced that Phaedra has been going around Atlanta telling people Pinky isn't actually vegan. It's her snapback is Phaedra eats dead people, which is a reference to she went to mortician school and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if she still does all that, but that's...
If she's smart, she just has someone else run it, but it's still in her name.
But it was a clap back to her, but I'm kind of funny, though.
It was really funny. At first, I think I said that in one of the prior episodes where I was like, she could never hurt my feelings. Maybe if she's like, if I find out she's eating meat, Pinky Cole. But just in joking, ha ha ha. But then I was like, damn, that's your entire brand being vegan, though. That would have some huge implications.
This is ignorant / unpopular opinion / take. I guess as a non-vegan person, maybe it's why I'm saying this, I could start a vegan restaurant.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care.
But I think it's part of her story, though. Yeah.
Right. The big difference is she's extremely passionate and very vocal about it. So, yes, in that sense, I'm like, bitch, you lied. I don't legitimize her business. It would delegitimize her business, to your point, because she's very vocal and very passionate about being vegan. It's not just like, yeah, I'm vegan. You know what? I'm going to open a vegan spot.
Yeah.
No, I could see how that might, affect your preconceived notion of her. So personally, it wouldn't affect me, but as long as you got vegan food, is it 100% vegan? Okay, cool.
You're not eating at a place called Slutty Vegan anyway, because you think the name is weird.
I do want to try her food.
I want some French fries. I don't like food that's manipulated that much. Like when you see people make tempeh and it's like bread that they smash and they do this and they do that. But also, I don't eat cakes that look like purses because I don't want food that's manipulated like that.
I have watched those videos and I'm always fascinated. Like, is this cell phone or is it cake? And then they cut it and it's a cake. Here's the thing, to your point, they do eat it though, so it must into society. But it is quite fascinating how real it. I'm like, how the fuck do they make look like plastic? I don't get it.
I know. I always look that up. Like one of my favorite people is Guy Fieri, and so whenever I watch his show, when you see them make the food,
Columbus native.
I know. They always let the crew eat the rest of it. Or like, they're making a big wok full of stuff and he gets one serving and then they let the rest of the crew eat
I always
the rest of the
wondered
food.
On those shows what happens with, I'm like, you only took a slice. Like, what happened?
Yeah,
no way.
It. Yeah.
They better not. That's such food waste.
I know.
However, like all those elaborate cakes where they clearly cake, but it could be like a Louis Vuitton bag. So I want a Louis Vuitton thing, but it's quite clear. So they usually use fondant for that, or fondant. My mom would say, avid baker, published baker at one point. And she'd say, as beautiful and fascinating as those cakes are, it tastes so shitty. More art than it is purpose, which is to serve food. Like fondant tastes like nothing. It's gross. Those cakes are not even delicious. So I wouldn't be surprised if these inanimate objects that are actually cake probably taste like shit.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, like I was gonna say if we go to Slutty Vegan, like I'll have some French fries because that's a potato that's deep fried.
I would try something.
But I'm sure they have like a nutritional yeast cheese sauce. Then I just don't.
Why do you gotta do her like that?
Well, because here's the thing. Why go there to just be like, well, I guess I'll eat it when I can just go up the street and just get cow's cheese and American cheese melted at the steakhouse place?
Oh, because you're not vegan. So that's the difference, because you're not thinking that the way, like, because ever since I started seeing these cow videos on my feeds, like, this is not like
you showed me the
I have
cute one,
and I'm just like, I love cows and they're such intelligent animals, and I don't eat pork either. Now, occasionally I do eat very crispy bacon, and it's kind of a kryptonite when I'm presented to. I don't know, my dad would make Sunday breakfast and whatever. I knew I could not wait because he made it the way I loved it, which is you can hold it in one thing and it's still, it doesn't like sag, fall down, and it's like it's almost burnt in a way. Like, I love bacon that's pure crisp. I hate fat. I hate all that.
It doesn't have the raw parts on the end where it curled up.
Yeah. Oh, gross. So, but occasionally like at work in the cafe, I'm like, I just want bacon and eggs. So there are times it does somehow come across my plate. I'm a walking contradiction because I don't have the same thought when I eat cheese and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, it's just, that's animal byproduct. It's not like the
commitment is different for cheese.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I understand all aspects. I don't really drink milk to begin with. I usually have almond milk. I was on that journey. I think you remember when I was like vegetarian for a while.
And packing your own food for a while. Yeah, I remember.
And so, and then with that, I did eat like Impossible burgers, and I really do like those. So
we have moments in our house where I think I can definitely see Maddie being vegetarian for a while.
Oh.
When she gets her little tablet and you come over and sit next to her and she's watching videos of like a duck that lost its family and they're reconnecting them, or a dog with 3 legs.
Yeah.
And they're fitting them for a wheelchair. And so then we'll be having dinner and she's like,
we have the same algorithm, me and her.
And so she's always like, I like pink fish. And then one day she was watching a video about salmon and how they swim upstream. And she's like,
I can't eat it.
Is that salmon? She's like, I'm so sorry, Mr. Salmon, but it's so...
She's so empathetic. She gets it.
I was like, you know what, though? I can see her being 8 and coming home and being like, I'm over it. But her lunch is like blackberries, raspberries, the pretzel thins, and then like a Gatorade. And I'm like, she probably eats meat like 3 times a week. She does not fuck with any of it. I mean, we try not to buy stuff that we can't toss. And unfortunately, that means we're buying a lot of like frozen stuff because at least you can put it back in the freezer. And I'm not trying to cook 12 drumsticks and we're only going to eat 3 of them and then toss it. Like, it's not worth stuff like that. She won't fuck with. If she has to see a bone, she's like, wait, this is its muscle. And you're just like, stop saying it like that. Now I can't eat.
Yeah, do not. I never.
You're like, gross, but
too smart of a child, girl.
She's so smart.
Damn,
she's so smart.
This is a muscle.
But no, people can definitely live without having animal protein.
You can. It's proven.
So much food. Yes. There's still so much food.
And people argue it's better for you.
Theo went to a nutritionist because we just got like new insurance. And she was like, I want you to start eating this amount of calories a day. And he was like, okay. She was like, but to do that, you have to go 2 weeks and record what you actually eat. I'm not going to put him on blast. But people regularly eat way more calories than you need, especially if you're working a desk job. You're not out plowing the fields. You do not need a whole bunch of calories. And so we're accustomed to that. So I think that shock will be the biggest thing, right? Zombie apocalypse. That's going to be the biggest shock. I'm just used to eating all the fucking time. After that.
Yeah, we're an obese society. So that does not surprise me at all.
We are starting to grow strawberries on our patio because I'm like, nah, I need to know how to grow. The one job you can never take away is knowing how to grow your own food. I want to do some tomatoes too. So Farmer Kyla is here. Let's learn how to grow some strawberries.
That was episode 3, guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye. Go get some vegan burgers.
Or not.
Are you frozen?
No, I was just reading.
Oh.
No, I'm not.